Hi, I'm Ryan Urbanowitz, and welcome to part 4 of producing educational lecture videos using PowerPoint, OBS Studio, and Adobe Premiere Pro. In this video, we're going to cover editing and exporting with Adobe Premiere Pro. Here's a quick summary of the videos included in this video series. In our last video, we covered recording with OBS Studio. Alright, so next we're going to move on to editing your video with Premiere Pro. Again, we have this overview of the entire production process, and the following slides are just going to focus on this bit. We have our input files to Premiere Pro, which is going to include the primary recording we just completed with OBS Studio. Also, you might want to add other video capture clips or introductory graphics, and you might want to include background music. All of these files will be input to Premiere Pro. I'm going to cover all the basic elements of preparing your final presentation in Premiere Pro. This will include key video effects I've used, as well as key audio effects, and the process of editing itself. Alright, so first off, let's talk a little bit more about the Adobe Premiere Pro software. In this video, I'm going to be using the current version, which is 2022. If you've never used Premiere Pro or other Adobe products like Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator, there can be a steep learning curve to master the software as a whole. But there's only a handful of things that you're going to need to learn to make an educational video like the ones I've made. And if there's anything you want to do or add that I don't cover, there are tons of great resources that you can Google or look for on YouTube to help you quickly learn beyond the concepts that I'm going to cover. If you've never used Adobe Premiere Pro, this is one video I'd recommend to get you started on the basics of using the software. And of course, there are tons of other educational videos regarding Premiere Pro out there on YouTube. Again, here, we're only going to cover what I use to make educational videos or lecture recordings. Getting started, we first need to set up Adobe Premiere Pro. We're going to open the software and create a new project. Then we're going to give that project a unique name in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. And you can decide where to save it. I'm going to leave it at the default. And we're going to create the project. At this point, I'm going to review some useful tools within Adobe Premiere Pro. Here we have the left side of our timeline window. Here at the top, the little arrow is called the selection tool. When this is highlighted, we can use the mouse to select clips, move them, shorten them, or lengthen them. Then we have the razor tool. This is for cutting clips into two. This tool is critical for editing. Next, on each video track, you'll see this little eyeball icon. That's the toggle track output. You can select this to show or hide the content of a given track. This can be useful, for example, when you're trying to resize and crop your two video feeds. You can use the toggle track output in order to just view one at a time, since when you first add both video tracks, one will be on top of the other. Next, for each track, we have the option to lock the track. When this is toggled, it prevents the track from being selected or edited. This is useful if you want to do something only to a specific track and you want to prevent the others from being selected, or if you know that you're not going to want to change a track any further and you want to avoid accidentally moving or changing something in that track. Next, we're going to load in the desired media for the project. In this case, we're going to load our OBS presentation recording, some background music, and an intro video sequence that I like to use at the beginning of my videos. You can upload this content at the start of your project, or you can add content while you're working on it. One of the easiest ways to add your content is to just drag it from a folder to your timeline in Premiere Pro. So let's go ahead and start that. First, I'm going to grab my OBS recording and drag that into the timeline. And we should see it pop up here. We can take a look at it, make sure that everything looks correct. And we can try playing a quick clip as well. Hi, I'm Ryan Urbanowitz, and this is part 2 of Machine Learning Essentials for Biomedical Data Science. Alright, so that looks fine. Because we want to work with our PowerPoint slides and our webcam separately, we want to actually drag 2 copies of our OBS recording into the Premiere Pro timeline. Each copy will take up some different tracks. One of the video tracks will become the PowerPoint slide capture, the other video track will become the webcam capture, and we only need one copy of the audio capture, so we can delete the other one. So let's take a look at how we do this. I'm going to drop a second copy of this video into the timeline. And I want to put it in the exact same place. You can zoom in to the track to get a closer look. For example, here, I'm going to just cut to where the audio begins. And then zoom out. Now we have 2 copies of our video and 2 copies of our audio. However, we only need 1 copy of the audio. So right now I'm just going to lock the first 3 tracks, 2 video, 1 audio. I'm going to highlight the last audio and hit delete. And I'm going to unlock these to continue to edit. For now, I'm just going to move this forward a little bit in the timeline to give some space and zoom in. Now I'm going to add some music that I had pre-recorded using Ableton Live as some intro and outro music for the video. Okay, so that sounds good. And lastly, I'm going to grab some graphics that I created, some intro graphics for another video. I'm going to bring that to the start as well and go to the beginning and hit play. So these are the graphics that I'm after, but I don't need the entire video. I'm actually just after the graphics. So I'm going to cut out most of that clip and just zoom in and find the spot where the video ends. Just right about there. And then I'm going to lock the top video and delete the audio associated with that because all I'm after is this intro graphic. Now I'm going to unlock it and zoom out. Looking at our preview screen, we can see that the dimensions of our final video product are actually bigger than what we're going to want. Specifically, our PowerPoint footage is 1920 by 1080p, and we've separately added on our webcam footage. So the next thing we're going to want to do is go up to Sequence Settings. Here, you're going to pick your project resolution. In this case, we're going to use 1920 by 1080p and 60 frames per second. Basically, this should match the quality of the highest quality source that you're adding to your video. In this case, that is the full screen resolution of our PowerPoint slides, which was captured at 60 frames per second. And now I'm going to hit OK. All right, so obviously now our footage looks odd because the original content is bigger than the dimensions of our final video. Next, we're going to format that OBS video recording. Before we start cutting our OBS video into smaller chunks, we want to transform the video and audio a little bit as a whole so we don't have to do it individually for each cut later. This is going to include repositioning or cropping the source video for either the PowerPoint content or the webcam content. And this will also involve removing the green screen from our webcam content. Additionally, it's going to include improving our audio quality. All right, so now let's see how we're going to reposition and or crop our two video sources. Again, I recommend you do this before you start cutting up your clip as a whole. First, we're going to reposition the content for both the PowerPoint track and the webcam track. The top video track is going to be our webcam, which is going to sit on top of our PowerPoint slides. Below it is the PowerPoint slides themselves. Let's start by clicking this little eyeball icon to hide the webcam layer. And since these are just copies of one another, in our preview screen, it looks like nothing's changed. However, now we're going to make sure that we have our PowerPoint slide track selected. Then we're going to go to Effect Controls, Video Effects, Motion, and then Position. Here you can adjust the video position left, right, up, or down. And you can do this by clicking and holding either number and sliding your mouse left and right, or by clicking on one of the numbers and changing it manually. You can notice that as you do this, you can see the footage moving left and right on the screen, and you want to move it until it's centered within your preview window. All right, now we're going to view our webcam track again, and we can see that now it's overlaying all of what we had set up for our PowerPoint track. Okay, so next up, we're going to fix our webcam track. So we're going to click on the top track, which is for our webcam, and we're going to start by getting it roughly into position. Again, we're going to go up to our video motion position, and we're going to slide it until it's approximately in the corner. In my case, that's where I want it. And then I'm going to change the height. In this case, I'm roughly going to put it here, as you'll see why in a minute. Next, for just your webcam track, you're going to crop the video. And we're going to want to crop out everything but this little frame of the webcam right there. So I'm going to go to Effects, and I'm going to search for Crop. This will be under Video Effects, Transform, Crop. I'm going to grab that effect, and you can either drag it onto the clip itself, or you can drag it up here to that clip's effect controls. So I'll just throw it here for now, and you can see it appear in the effect controls. So next, we're going to go ahead and crop either from the left, top, right, or bottom. And you can click and drag like before. And basically, we want to just grab the relevant parts of the space from the top, from the right. And because the webcam footage stops at this line, we don't need to adjust the bottom. Now I'm going to finish positioning my webcam, and I'm going to move ahead in my track. As you can see on the rest of my slides, I have this line separating the main content from subtext or page numbers. And I'm going to line up my webcam with that line. So again, making sure my webcam video track is selected, I'm going to grab the vertical, and I'm just going to move this until it's pretty much right on the line. If you want to learn more about cropping in Premiere Pro, check out this video. All right, next let's move on to removing our green screen in our webcam footage. So at this point, our webcam is correctly positioned on top of our PowerPoint slides. Under Effects, search for Ultra Key. This can be found in Video Effects, Keying, Ultra Key. Once you've added Ultra Key to the clip in your webcam track, we're going to go to its options and we're going to set the key color. The key color is basically the target color that we're going to remove from the video. This, of course, should be the color of your background green screen. You can do this manually in the color window, or you can select the eyedropper tool to select a color sample from the screen. So in this case, I'd recommend selecting a sample of what original green screen is left in the video footage that wasn't cut off by the background removal in OBS. Once you've selected the color, you can hit OK, and you should immediately see the green background become transparent. You can see the roughness of this green screen cut when I view it with the white background. So at this point, you can play with the settings of Ultra Key. One thing you can do is pick one of the default settings, like Aggressive, and you can see that tightens up the edges quite a bit. Now let's see what this looks like with the edit. Hi, I'm Ryan Urbanowitz, and this is part 2 of Machine Learning Essentials, and we can see with the white background. This is simply the format most of us would be used to, so it looks pretty good. Feel free to play with these settings further to get this looking just the way you want. For more on removing the green screen in Premiere Pro, check out this link at the bottom of the page. Once you remove the background, and you're just left with the video clip of your silhouette, I found that on a white background, sometimes the edges of the background removal can look a little bit harsh. As such, I like to add my own custom shape and background color behind my webcam silhouette. So to do this, first we're going to add a new track to our timeline below your webcam track. Notably, within your timeline, any tracks higher up in the video list are going to cover the video tracks below it. Next, from our timeline options, we're going to select a basic shape to add a simple shape. In my case, I've opted to select an ellipsoid. You can go to your preview window and draw that shape just like you could in a PowerPoint slide. Next, in your preview window, you can also adjust the position and size of your shape. In my case, I size it to fit just behind the silhouette of my webcam. Further, you can adjust the color of the shape, and in my case, I like to set it the same color I use in the top of my PowerPoint slides. Now, if like in my case, you don't want the entire ellipsoid to appear, you can use a mask to limit what parts of the shape to actually make visible. So with the shape selected on your timeline, go to Effect Controls, Video, and Opacity. And here you can add a mask, which itself can be an ellipsoid, a rectangle, or some custom shape. Once you've added the mask, you can resize and position it. Any of the space inside the mask will be visible. So now let's walk through all these steps within Premiere Pro. So to do this, the first thing that I'm going to do is go back to my timeline, and I'm actually going to move my webcam footage up one video track, making space for a shape that I'm going to insert underneath the webcam. Now I'm going to go to this rectangle tool, and actually I'm going to pick an ellipse tool instead. I'm going to click where there's some white space, and I'm going to draw a shape. And I'm going to move that shape down underneath the webcam. And if you want, you can further change the positioning of this shape. Next, I'm going to change the color of the shape to make it fit with the rest of the slides. Again, I'm going to pick the eyedropper, and I'm just going to select on the top of my slide here, and now we have the same color. However, as you can probably see, this shape is overlaying my page number and other text that I would have here underneath the slide. So there's one more thing that I'm going to add, and that's a mask to remove the bottom part of the shape so it's not visible. So for that, make sure your shape is selected and go to its Effect Controls. Under Opacity, we have the option to create a 4-point polygon mask. I'm going to click that, and we see this mask appear. Notice that our shape has disappeared. That's because the mask is defining the space that will show the object. So I'm going to drag this mask over, and now we should see our shape appear. I'm going to add a point just by clicking on the mask, and you can click on the points to adjust the position. But I'm basically going to arrange this somewhat tightly to the object. This is not super important, but feel free to play with this. All right, now I'm going to click off the screen, and we can see that now we have a pretty nice shape. And take a look at our footage. The parts making up this video series. So that looks decent, but feel free to change or adapt this however you'd like. Next, we want to add our audio quality effects. I'm going to play a quick clip for you, and notice that even though I'm not speaking, there's some background audio noise showing up on this bar. Right here. So we're going to want to improve the quality of this audio. I'm going to lock all the other video tracks and just have our audio track selected. Now I'm going to go into Effects, Audio Effects. I'm going to select Noise Reduction and Denoise. I'm going to drag that onto the clip. Now let's see what happens when we play this clip. We've dramatically reduced the background noise. You don't have to, but there are a number of other audio effects you can add to your clip to improve the audio quality. For example, I typically add a multi-band compressor, and I like to add a de-esser to reduce some of the harsh S sounds. So now if I go to the effects controls, I can see that I have my denoise, multi-band compressor, and de-esser on this audio track. you want to make sure that any audio effects you've added are on all of your audio clips. Okay, so next, we're going to move on to actually editing our clips together. For this, we're going to use the Selection tool, the Razor tool, and your Preview window in Premiere Pro to edit your source material down to the desired set of clips in sequence. One quick tip is that you can link the webcam, PowerPoint, and main audio tracks together during editing so that you can't move one independently of the other and accidentally misalign them. When clips are linked, you can use the lock track mechanism to just focus on editing one of these tracks at a time. For example, adding effects to just one of those tracks at a time. I'm going to go ahead and extend this graphic for the time being to the full length of the clip, and then we're going to get ready to do some edits. Notice when I click on this bottom video track that the audio track is linked to it. I can first unlink it to make them separate items. And now I'm going to grab all 4 of these and I'm going to link them. So now whenever I click on one, all of them are selected. This allows me to quickly and easily grab and cut parts of the video content. And I'm actually going to find the start of where I want my video to begin. Hi, I'm Ryan Urbanowitz. So this looks like my preferred starting point. I'm going to grab this and move it towards the beginning. Let me zoom in. In this case, I want my slides to start at this chime right here. But I don't want my webcam and speaking voice to start until the end of this little musical bit. So to do that, I'm going to sample a picture of the slide alone. So what I've done is muted the webcam. And I'm going to go up to this icon here for Export Frame. I'm going to click it and give it a name. And save it. Then I'm going to go into my content and find that picture that was just saved. And I'm going to drag it into my presentation. So now we can see this is just a still clip of that image. I'm going to have that appear right on the chime. Let me zoom in, find the spot where the audio begins, and make sure it's lined up. And I'm actually going to add a default transition so that it fades in. Let's make that a little bit smaller. And now let's find the beginning of our audio track. Hi, I'm Ryan Urbanowitz. All right, and then we're going to move this to the beginning of that. And now it looks something like this. Hi, I'm Ryan Urbanowitz. Great. So one last thing I'm going to add is a transition for the video for the webcam so that it fades in. So I'm going to want to select just the webcam. And since these are linked, I can lock the other tracks for the moment and make sure that our webcam track is selected. And then I'm going to right click and I'm going to add a default transition. And you can change how long that transition is. But let's take a look. Hi, I'm Ryan Urbanowitz. And all right, that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to unlock these tracks. Make sure that these are all still linked, which they are. And if you want, you can add a fade into the audio as well. Let's take a look at the whole beginning so far. Hi. So now I'm going to show you how to do a little bit more editing. I'm Ryan Urbanowitz, and this is part 2 of Machine Learning Essentials for Biomedical Data Science. And you can pause the video at any point with the spacebar or the play or stop button. And let's say I want to cut it there. I'm going to hit C. Then click it to cut everything at once. In this video, and now you can grab the edge of a video you want to trim and just drag it and then move it into place. In this video, we'll discuss biomedical data and the respective goals and challenges therein. And we can continue to make other edits in this same manner. While you're editing, for individual clips, decide where you want to place your webcam footage. And if you want to move it to a different location than where we started, you're going to need to move the webcam position, the background shape we've added behind it, and that shape's mask to whatever the new location is on your PowerPoint slide. So next I'm going to skip ahead to part of my talk where I'm going to want to put my video in a different position. So let's say it's this clip right here. But for this segment, we want the webcam to be located all the way to the left. That way, as we progress through the slide, we can keep the webcam on as long as possible and have it disappear as soon as we want this cloud of text to appear. So to do this, we're going to be changing some options in the webcam stream, as well as in the background shape and the mask of that shape. So first, let's move the webcam. I'm going to lock the other tracks so that I can keep these clips linked. And then I'm going to go up to the video position, and I'm going to move it to the left. And let's say I want to put it right about there. Note that this effect is only affecting this clip. If we go back earlier in our recording, it's not affecting these other clips that have already been cut. So next up, we want to move our shape. So I'm going to lock the webcam track and unlock the graphic. Select it, and now I'm going to change its position as well. Now notice it disappears. That's because it's going behind the mask. So I'm also going to go down to opacity, click the mask, and then I'm going to move this as well. And you can see our shape appear. So I'm going to get this roughly in a position, and I'm going to finish moving our shape into place until it looks good. So now we have successfully moved our webcam in this video clip. And you can do this as often as you'd like throughout the talk. If you want to do this for a bunch of clips that make up a scene, for example, a bunch of individual cut clips that make up a single PowerPoint slide's content, we can select all of those clips at once, right-click on them, and click Nest. Now, with these clips nested, you can modify effects of all the nested clips at the same time. Also, while you're editing, I'd recommend leaving any video transitions, such as fade-ins, fade-outs, crossfades of either video or audio, until after all the other video cuts have been made. Next, I'll quickly show you how to remove the webcam when you don't want it in the way of something. So let's say we have this moment right here where the text cloud appears. So at this point, I'm going to want to have this background oval disappear, and I'm going to want the webcam to disappear. So I'm going to lock the other two tracks for the moment. And I'm going to, just for now, pick the graphic only. So I'm going to lock the webcam. And then I'm going to take this graphic and I'm going to slide it just to end right about there. All right, so now I'm going to lock that and do the same to the webcam. And if we want to do this a little bit more gracefully, we can add a default transition. And I'll do the same for the graphic. And let's see what that looks like. Electrocardiogram measures over some time period. Once your whole video has been edited down, you also want to check the overall audio levels of your final project. To do this, open the audio track mixer. You can find this under Window, Audio Track Mixer, and you'll get something that looks like this. Now from your preview window, you can go ahead and play the content, and from this mixer, you can adjust the volume levels of the music or dialogue within each individual audio track. For example, let's say the background music I loaded was much louder originally than the dialogue that I recorded. And for my final recording, I want to reduce the volume of my background music and increase the volume of my dialogue. So let's listen to what this sounds like now. Hi, I'm Ryan Urbanowitz, and this is part 2 of Machine Learning Essentials for Biomedical Data Science. In this video, we'll discuss biomedical data and the respective goals and challenges therein. All right, so that's pretty good. Like we talked about in OBS Studio audio recording, we want to make sure that at the loudest point of the video, the audio still doesn't exceed about -6 decibels. Because again, we don't want our final recording to hit 0 decibels where we get clipping and audio distortion. If you want to learn more about setting perfect audio levels in Premiere Pro, you can check out this other YouTube video. All right, so you've finished editing your video and you're ready to export it as a final video product. We've pretty much reached the end of our production pipeline as we go from Premiere Pro to our completed MP4 video. So how do we export video in Premiere Pro? First, in your timeline, you're going to want to set the start point and end point of the time interval you want to be exported as the final video. You can go to the desired starting point in the timeline and hit the I key to specify your mark in, and go to the point where you want your video to stop and hit the O key. This now specifies the region that will get exported. Next, you're going to go to your Export tab, and you're going to choose Media File. Now you can name your output MP4 file and set the save location. Make sure that your format is set to H.264, which is a standard MP4 format. Also in this window under Video, make sure that your frame size is 1920 by 1080p, and the frame rate is still 60. And now you're ready to go. Click Export, and the actual export process could take minutes to hours, depending on how long your video is and how complex it is. A little time-lapse magic. And our video is complete. So now let's navigate to the folder we saved it and give it a quick watch. Hi, I'm Ryan Urbanowitz, and this is part 2 of Machine Learning Essentials for Biomedical Data Science. If you want to learn more about exporting in Premiere Pro, check out one of these 2 videos. Thanks for joining me for part 4 of producing educational lecture videos using PowerPoint, OBS Studios, and Adobe Premiere Pro. In the last video of this series, we're going to be covering posting to YouTube. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to follow my future content.